It's not the warmest morning. I gotta wait for it to warm up before I'm gonna lay my belly in that ice and working that thing. So, but guess what came in the frickin' mail? And I know I was the first person to order. And I got this and a t-shirt. I placed my order January 6th. Am I satisfied with it? Yeah. I don't know. I think I probably could have done a lot better up the road at the private business, but how do we get all those out to you guys in an affordable way with the shipping and the Canada stand shipping prices, etc., etc. But anyways, there it is. But I think I might be more looking forward to getting those stickers for the truck, for the vehicles, because I think that would get people talking too, maybe. I don't know. But I'm gonna wear this. I'm gonna wear it, and I gotta go to a more populated town here today, and I'm gonna wear it, and we'll see what comes. If somebody sees it and says, "Hey, what's up?" or "Hey, I'm a member too," or whatever, right? So there it is. January 6th, when I placed my order. Completely out of my control when to receive it. Very frustrating. But anyway, we got some voices to hear, more important than my belly aching voice. I could belly ache about loss today, but I'm gonna bite my lip. Now, listen to this. This title, Your Evidence. Hi Steve, I'm new here. I've been binge watching, or rather binge listening to your channel for a bit over a week. I have stories to share, but this one is for you first. By the way, it's okay to use my name. Excuse me. I watched a video of yours last night on my phone, 26 February 23, in which you had things thrown at you. It was on the Round Table of Knowledge by How to Hunt channel and was entitled, I have objects thrown at me while sharing emails again. It looks like it was loaded 19th of January 23. A month ago. Steve, I saw flashes with my naked eye in the video, so I paused and played the timestamp of the incident as fast as I could by tapping really quickly on the play/pause button to get still photos. I was able to reduce the seconds to milliseconds and come up with the following images, for which I produced 2 of each image. One clear, one with the timestamp visible. 2 things were apparent to me. The first thing, light flashes appeared in front of you between you and the camera, immediately before and after the first rock was thrown. I have a theory about these speckles and flashes of light. It'd be interesting to hear your take on it. I think that you had a creature out of phase walking across in front of you. This creature, whatever it was playing games, enjoying the show. I didn't detect these speckles at any other time in the surrounding footage. The second thing, I say rock because if you zoom in on the photos in which you're standing, you will clearly see things in the air behind you. I could see 3 in 1 or 2 pics, and as I continued the photo capture, it gave me a general feel for the direction from which these projectiles came. I hope this makes sense to you. Anyway, check out your pics. I really hope you're able to get someone, if not yourself, to look at this footage in milliseconds. I don't have that sort of equipment. Enjoy. Jody Zamet, Mackay, Queensland, Australia. Okay, man. Yeah, I can't tell. Well, I definitely see you got the stills on here. I'll put the photos up. It's interesting. Nothing new because I was there, right? It's one of those things. It's like, for me, it's like, all right, this is going down. I accept it. And then I let everybody be and everything around me be and just carry on, mind my own business. It's interesting though, isn't it? Right? It's interesting. Thanks for that share. I'm sure somebody's going to be sleuthing this. Now, next, this is titled, My Shares from Prince of Wales Island, Southeast Alaska. Hey Steve, sorry about my punctuation. Writing has never been my strong suit. My name is Paul and I spent nearly my whole life in Southeast Alaska. You're a lucky man. Excuse me. And the only jobs I've done is logging and commercial fishing. I've built $1 million homes and worked on cars that don't belong anywhere near Southeast Alaska. I currently work 3 jobs here just to get by, including the family construction company where we do dirt work for mostly new people trying to move to this small piece of paradise from all over, trying to get away from the lower 48 states. No doubt. I'd imagine it must be getting busy up there. I'm not a people person. You should get in trouble for being straight to the point with no bullshit, because I'd rather tell the person the truth rather than beating around the bush. Same. Anywho, enough with me and this shit y'all don't want to hear, and my two encounters that I'm certain was from a being that most people tell us doesn't exist. I've been listening for about 3 years now and telling myself I need to send my story in for the last 10 months. Like you, I'm very limited with time and work usually 7 days a week. And now I'm sending my story to you because, first of all, I finally have the time, and second, I told myself if I don't do it now, then I'll never do it. And just like you say, get it all in one email and get as much in one email. One thing I'm gonna do is try my best to make sure I put in the proper pronunciations on the island names, because one of you ever come here, it could keep you on the uphill side of the dirt, if you know what I mean. First story, August 2013. I took a semester off from college while waiting for classes that were only available in the springtime for my heavy-duty diesel degree. Working nights over in Klawok, I had happened to get a night off from work, and before I went to bed at 7 a.m., I decided to go hike an area we call Eagle Creek. I was hiking in what we called the flats between Eagle Creek and Baird Mountain, in an area that the old-time loggers hunted, which sadly were down to very few of them. Anywho, I spotted a nice buck right at full daylight. I would put in the ballpark of 5 a.m. So I noticed a small ravine that ran down to within 100 yards of this booner buck. I'd moved through it about 600 yards, staying out of sight and out of the small creek running through the bottom of it. When I looked up and decided it was close enough to shoot easily with my 25-06 Remington, with my own hot loads, I had just put a round in the tube and getting ready to pop him and nail him, and out of nowhere, a damned cedar tree, about 4 inches or about 10 centimeters for those who use the not freedom system, flew past my nose and stuck in the ground like a damn javelin with roots still on. And I knew I was the only person in 7 miles of the area hunting. The first thing that went through my head was, better get the F out of here because I'm not wanted. So I went home and it was all smooth sailing, other than I had to leave the trophy deer there. But it wasn't until a couple years ago when one day I was listening to a story when this flooded back to me, because that was the one thing at first I remembered from that hunt. But what brought this back was the emphasis on the silence, which was very much so to the point my tendinitis was starting to give me a headache. That's tinnitus, not tendinitis, tinnitus, which is starting to give me a headache, which has only happened one other time beforehand, which was in a recording studio. But nothing bad happened other than the small tree almost taking me out. But I see it more as I was trespassing on an area, but these days I'd probably just go for the deer, for the meat. Screw whoever was messing with me. Second encounter, May 22. It was Memorial Day weekend, and the girlfriend and I were going on our first camping trip together out to Luck Lake, only about 2.5 miles as the crow flies from the first incident. We set up camp around 80 yards from the main rec area and the boat launch that the Forest Circus, USFS, put in around 2016. We had some friends come out to hang out with their small child, and after they left around 9 p.m., we both heard this whistle that sounded wrong, like a cross between a bird and a person, almost mechanical sounding. We both looked at each other, and I grabbed my 9mm SIG and went looking while leaving the 338 with the girlfriend. After what ended happening, I feel like a dumbass for taking just a 9mm pistol with me, end bracket. I ended up walking the woods back in a zigzag pattern, all the way back to the main Eagle Creek Road, and saw nothing, not even a bird, which was weird for this area. After working my way back to camp, it was just after dark, and I'd been back at the fire for about an hour and a half when I started to feel a literal pressure on me. First thing I did was the girlfriend and my 12-pound Yorkie and I walked up to the parking lot, and I noticed a much easier feeling up there. So I made the choice to move camp up to there because the pressure feeling was gone. When I say a pressure feeling, I mean like the feeling in your body when you get further underwater. And the longer I stayed there, the worse it got. That's a good description. Of course, after moving camp, I made sure it wasn't possible to tell that we were there. The night started going better till about midnight when we turned in for the night, and I was just tossing and turning and decided to grab a drink out of the back of the truck. When climbing out of the tent, I noticed my dog Watson, 12-pound Yorkie, was in a tight ball, shivering, which wasn't normal for him. I mean, this dog isn't afraid of nothing. I've seen him back down a couple dogs that were over 100 pounds because he doesn't give a shit. He's going to stand his ground, and I mean, this dog seriously has issues with not having fear. Anywho, back on track. I got to the truck and got a Coors out, and right after doing that, rather than opening a Mountain Dew, because I was having these weird thoughts of taking myself, my dog, and my girl out, which is nowhere near the normal for me. I got this thought in my head that wasn't my own effing voice, which still every week I have one night at least that will still bother me. But the voice said, look up the road out towards the restrooms. So without a thought, I grabbed my flashlight out of my pocket and flashed it for maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Please excuse this next lineup of bad words. This still makes my blood boil because I knew I couldn't protect my girlfriend or my dog, which is my world. I saw that damn sumbitch that was at least 10 feet tall and looked like a very hairy, oversized NFL linebacker with no neck. All I remember is a look on this mother effer's face of, try me. I don't remember any eyes glowing, but I remember the asshole I saw and made me go, quote, well, I'm gonna be dying tonight. So I killed the light and went and grabbed my dog and woke the girlfriend, literally saying, wake up, we're leaving right the F now. She was very much pissed at me, but actually listened to me and we left. We went the next late morning to pick our gear up and saw an unusual sight. One state trooper truck at the lake and a couple new Suburbans on the main road. The trooper was at the lake, which they only come out to the Luck Lake area maybe once a year. But the new Suburbans were odd, especially with the military-age guys I saw in it. They were too out of place, because it wasn't bear season and deer season wasn't open to off-islanders for another 3 months. We got to the lake and the trooper was asking questions about the night before. I told him we had a bear in camp, which we all know wasn't what it was, but I didn't want to put up with the law people because they're only trouble for most of us. I've been trying to piece together what these assholes could be, but being in a very remote area, and all I have for internet is my phone, no computer, because it died and I'm not replacing it yet. And the old timers around here just clam up when the subject comes up. So I'm a sponge for information. Thank you for listening. Paul. This is for your discretion to read to the group or yourself. Steve, that's my stories. And sorry for taking up so long for getting this in. I hope this helps someone, because your channel has helped me with all this, because I spent a bunch of years thinking I was crazy for believing in this whole subject until that camping trip. I'm not a person who would make this shit up. I'd rather be the guy no one ever notices than ever having my moment in any kind of a spotlight. I'd also like to extend an invitation for you to go hunting with the little-known Sitka black-tailed deer here on the Prince of Wales. Just for you, contact. Hey man, thanks, appreciate that invite, man. I've gone up solo and hiked around Alaska by myself in the mountains. I've gone on a guided hunt. I was a camera guy on Kodiak and saw piles of black-tailed deer on the beach and all over the frickin' place. I thought what a hoot it would be to just to hunt here and go through the entire herd till you found the oldest monster you could find. But anyway, getting back to what, I don't know if I read that incorrectly, but it said you had thoughts of taking yourself out and your girlfriend and dog out. Did that mean like killing them or taking them out of the area? I was reading and trying to concentrate and reading smooth. But anyway, yeah, it's not the first time that the government's shown up when there's been in the same area where there's sighting these beings, right? And Southeast Alaska is a hotbed for a lot of these sightings, which morphs into British Columbia too, right? But if you just square up with somebody who you think may possibly know what you're talking about, just square up with them, look them square in the eye, don't smirk or laugh, and just say flat out, hey man, You ever seen anything weird on the beach or whatever when you're working on the boats or in the timber, hear anything kind of weird, or hear about somebody seeing something that kind of sort of shouldn't be there? You know what I mean? Ever hear of something like that? And then it totally gives the potential for the conversation to either go or not go. And then there's no harm done either way. And there's no laughing, there's no joking, there's no big deal. But I've done that I don't know how many times, and probably more times than not, I get a story. Right? Either directly from them or somebody they know or somebody they work with. So, you might want to try that. If there's any Native communities around there who have your respect and you want some more information, that's definitely a place to go to, right? So, anyway, be safe out there, man. If I could go hunting up there, I would in a second. For sure. But right now, I'm not even allowed to go across the frickin' border because I haven't had the forced injection into my body. It's dirty sons of bitches, right? Anyway, appreciate you emailing that in, man. Keep them coming. You get any more knowledge, you make sure you share with the planet, all right? Who's next? All right, this next one is titled, "It's Obvious to Me." Hey Steve, it seems obvious to me why the government will not acknowledge the existence of the Sabe. The Sabe doesn't want them to. I agree, these are creatures from another existence or planet. They have nothing to gain from interacting with us. We are still butchering each other over petty things, i.e. my brother was murdered for 20 bucks. Sorry to hear that, man. Remember, humans only use 10% of their brains. We still have a lot of developing to do. We couldn't handle the truth. Many presidential candidates have promised to tell the truth about these things, and they get elected and brief on the subject and everything changes. It is going to be a long, drawn-out process before most humans can interact with other beings or even believe they exist, especially ones more intelligent and advanced. If they could, you would see a UFO land in Times Square. Instead, they stick to remote areas. Even many of your followers have said they grab their guns automatically when they've seen one. I believe we're slowly being groomed for the big reveal, and hopefully your channel is helping with that. That's why it's been taken down for a while and then put back up. Thanks, Jim in Florida. Yeah, who knows, man? I don't know. It's funny too, when I look back over what I have been taught in the past in school, as an example, one small example. All right, they say we only use 10% of our brains. How do they know that? Why do they keep telling us stuff like that, right? I tend to not listen to they anymore at all. I just watch them. I watch they, and I watch what they do, I watch what they say, and I watch how they manipulate, and I watch them. And I'm very leery and very aware of they being basically the source of everything dark in our world. But anyway, who knows, man? Who knows? I know one thing. There is a, I think because of the unleashing of the internet to the public, this is why everything's going upside down. There are generations of groups, small groups of people who have had ultimate control and not being challenged or exposed in any way for how long and how comfortable that must be, right? But now, all of a sudden you've got little groups of, the bees, the hornets are starting to get stirred up here and there and here and there, and you got to put a little fire out over there, and they got to put a fire out over there. And now the internet has created little fires all over the frickin' shop, and the people who normally control our information and our education are kind of panicking, right? And causing way more chaos, right? Because that's all they can do right now. They can't absolutely control. Well, they better cause a shit pile of distractions then until they can figure out how they can get control of everybody again. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. It's cold. Before I start babbling anymore, let's get some more voices heard. This next one's titled, Triggering Memories, Creepy Winter Cabin Experience, and Minnesota Iceman. Hi Steve, this is going to be a long one. Just so you know, LOL, I've read and reread this till I'm dizzy and hope there are no typos or punctuation glitches. Even if it's written out perfectly, I'll probably screw it up somewhere. But thank you for the effort. I've watched your channel since some time in early to midnight 2018, so about 5 years now. My dad had just died of cancer, and I was missing his hunting stories, so that's how I found how to hunt. It's mind-blowing to see the way this channel has grown. Like many others, I started watching for the hunting stories and your awesome horses. I sure miss Macaroni. I sure miss Mr. Macaroni. I hope I spelled that right. And stayed for the savvy experiences and the hard look at reality many of us grew up dangerously unaware of, only to realize we've been duped. Keep doing what you're doing, Steve, and I and so many others thank you. Thanks to Sarah, too, for all she does behind the scenes. I wrote you a long time ago, I guess a couple of years or maybe 3. My letter hasn't been read, unless I somehow missed it. I know you have hundreds of thousands of emails to go through, and my experience was not a sighting, but a night of dread in an old 1800s miner's cabin in Summit County, Colorado, in the winter of 81-82, when I was a young woman in my early 20s, and I'm 64 now. I have other reasons behind writing this, but I'll recap this experience here. My boyfriend and I have been winter camping near the tiny town of Montezuma on the Snake River. I kept wanting to find a cabin on a nearby mountain. We've been told about it by locals. We should have stayed put at our camp, which was in the woods fairly close to town. I always felt safe. We spent several hours on 2 separate days searching for the cabin, and just when we were about to give up, I spotted it through the trees. We were happy to be getting indoors, but even as we began to clean up, sweeping out mouse crap and empty beer cans left over from the kids' parties, and my boyfriend was patching a hole in the roof, I began to get uneasy. By the time we'd moved in, I found myself not wanting to be there. But I didn't want to complain or suggest we return to our first campsite since I'd pushed so hard for us to find the place. Moving from one area to the other wasn't easy because we had no vehicle. We either walked or thumbed rides. We had a lot of gear. I couldn't understand my anxiety. I was finally living my dream and had years of camping and outdoor experience thanks to my dad, who took me and my brothers hunting and fishing during our growing up years. I'd always felt at home in the outdoors, not at this cabin though. It was an eerie place and so quiet. After moving in, we went down the mountain and ended up staying overnight with friends at a place in Keystone called Sunrise Employee Housing. We'd stayed later than we meant to. It was snowing, getting near dark, and it was safer to wait it out. The next day we headed back up the trail, making our way up the mountainside, and looking forward to the meal we were going to make. We buried a couple of packages of burger beneath the bench on our small porch, packing snow all around them. When we got back, they were gone. We figured an animal had dug them out, but it was strange because there was no ripped up packaging left behind, and the snow was still packed lightly beneath the bench, as though someone had dug them out, then carefully repacked the snow. That's bizarre. A person? That bothered me more than the idea it was an animal. We explained it all away, deciding that it was dug out by a hungry animal, and it must have been snowing and blowing and swept the burger wrappings away. And the wind must have repacked the snow. Or maybe the animal had dragged the whole thing away. My boyfriend had just started a lumberjacking job. His crew was cutting down trees infested with pine beetles, so he was wiped out and slept like the dead. When I woke in the middle of the night with an urgent need to pee, I sat up and was immediately struck with an awful sense of dread and the strong feeling that I should not go outside. I've always had a sixth sense that's kept me out of trouble. So when I got a strong feeling, I pay attention. When I get a strong feeling, I pay attention. Shit, I think I seen a rat or a mouse. Sorry. I really had to go, but was paralyzed with fear. So intense, I curled back in my sleeping bag and lay awake for I don't know how long. I eventually convinced myself to try sleeping some more. I did get back to sleep, but slept fitfully, and each time I woke, I couldn't shake the feeling of utter dread. I believed at the time, or at least tried to convince myself, that I must have been the victim of an overactive imagination. It was ridiculous to be so afraid, yet there I was. No amount of telling myself I was being a wuss made a difference. I thought about waking my boyfriend, but knew he was exhausted and had to be up early to get down the mountain and catch his ride to work. What was I going to say? wake up and come outdoors with me so I can pee. I had the bad feeling that something was waiting for me, and yet, illogically, I thought it would be okay as long as I stayed in the cabin. We had no gun. It hadn't even occurred to me back then that we were hitchhiking as our main means of getting around, and living in the wilderness with no firearms and only an axe and a knife. What were we thinking? My boyfriend was on parole for a non-violent crime, so we were playing by the rules. Otherwise, I'm sure we would have had a gun. I finally drifted off to sleep, and when I woke up, again it was before daybreak. The bad feeling was gone. Still, I was unnerved and ended up relieving myself just outside the door. I never said a word about any of it to my boyfriend. I still don't understand why, and ended up leaving Colorado in a rush. A couple days later, I grabbed my pack, thumbed to a nearby town of Frisco, got the bus back to Nebraska, and was out of there. Yes, I did inform my boyfriend I was leaving, but never explained why. I never felt that kind of fear before, and haven't felt anything like it since. It hasn't put me off the outdoors, for which I'm grateful. I hadn't even thought of it in years, but now I can bring it back as though it happened yesterday. How can a person forget something that bizarre? Listening to others' experiences brought that back, which brings me to this. I might title this next part, Do Cryptids Play Practical Jokes? A friend of mine has been listening to your channel with me since 2018. At first he was skeptical. He spent a great amount of time in the wilderness areas around the US and roamed and fished all over the Everglades. He said he'd never seen anything weird. His skepticism gradually turned into, maybe there's something to this. The other day I was listening to you read a letter about someone being frightened away by something big and having something or someone mess with their fishing gear, I think. I don't recall the details of that email because all at once my friend who was cooking breakfast said from the kitchen, "Pillow." I said, "What?" He said, "My friend and I were on a bicycle trip. We stopped for the night to get some sleep. The next morning his pillow was gone." I just looked at him like, "Yeah, so?" And he explained that they talked about it being weird because they'd both seen the pillow secured to his bike. They both recalled him going to sleep with it under his head, and neither of them had heard anything or been awakened in the night. They'd been sleeping under the stars, no tent, there was calm weather, no high winds. Then he said they shrugged it off and let it go. When they got packed up and back on the road, they'd ridden a short distance when there it was, the pillow, sitting on the roadside as though it had been deliberately placed there. If the pillow had been in the direction they'd traveled from, they would have rationalized it must have fallen from the bike. That they both must have been wrong about seeing it the night before, but it was up the road in the direction they were now traveling on a stretch of road they hadn't been yet. Whoever or whatever had taken it maybe knew which direction they'd be heading. Sort of reminds me of your experience with the returned hunting arrow. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. That gave me the chills when my friend told me about it. I asked him the year. He said it was around 71. He was 18 or 19 and he's 70 now. I asked the location. He said either Virginia or West Virginia. They were headed home to Maryland. It's strange, but like so many have experienced, I hadn't thought of that night in the cabin in years, and my friend hadn't thought of the vanishing pillow in probably decades. I guess it's easier for the human mind to sweep strange incidents under the carpet than accept that our world is not the place we've grown up believing it to be. Why don't we trust our own fears and eyes and other senses? Why do our memories go on vacation when we run into odd things we can't explain? I know we're so much more than most of us have been conditioned to believe. On a somewhat different note, a while back, someone in an email mentioned a writer named Lloyd Pye, or maybe I saw it in the comments. I can't recall, but here's something that others may find interesting. The font changes here because it's copied from an email I sent to a friend November 28, 22. I can't erase the yellow highlights. I guess that's from searching for the email in my saved folder. Actually, when I save them in my notes, it all changes the exact same. So it's still the same. Here's a weird one for you. It blew my mind. Yesterday I was watching a video by this writer, Lloyd Pye, who wrote Everything You Know Is Wrong. He's discussing how the evolutionary theory is completely wrong and goes into the ancient Sumerians, alien Sasquatch, and how humans were originally created through DNA manipulation to mine gold. the slave race. Somewhere along the way, he starts talking about the Minnesota Iceman and how it was actually a real juvenile Sasquatch that a guy had shot, frozen, and started dragging around the state fair circuit in the 60s and 70s. My jaw dropped. I saw that. No way. I'm not saying it was positively real, but it effing blew my mind to hear that some people believe it was the real deal. Others say it was a hoax, but I gotta say that was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. We were at the Nebraska State Fair in Lincoln, and I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. I saw there was a sideshow and I couldn't resist. I remember begging my dad to let me go see, and we went up some stairs. It was on a platform and we walked all around it. The body was in a freezer with clear walls. It wasn't enormous, but fairly big. I can't say it was real looking, and I can't say it was fake, but I do remember I wondered why one of the eyes looked like it was missing. According to Lord Pye, the guy shot the creature's eye out. Later, people say the real body was switched with a fake. I keep thinking it would be cool if I'd actually seen an actual Sasquatch and I never knew. Crazy, right? Steve, I wonder if any of your other viewers out there saw that exhibit. Maybe that's what started my fascination with what we call Bigfoot when I was a kid. It's strange that I'd completely forgotten about seeing the Iceman all those years ago. I'm glad to have that memory back. Thanks for reading. Your channel makes a difference for so many of us who are seeking answers and the truth. You can use my name. I'm old enough not to give a care what anyone thinks. All the best. All right. Appreciate the time you took to write out that absolute perfectly written email. You didn't leave your name. Sorry. Anyway, I don't think we've heard from anybody who's seen the Minnesota Iceman firsthand, have we? I mean, it's been reported a lot of people have written about it. I've seen the picture. I think I've got the picture on the computer. I might even use it for the thumbnail for this video, maybe. But yeah. I've seen the photos sure look like it's real, isn't it? Especially being back in that day. I mean, we've seen a bunch of stuff that's been hoaxed in more modern times than then, and the hoaxed stuff is laughable, right? But that photo of that Minnesota Iceman, there's nothing funny about that one, is there? Definitely wasn't funny for the Iceman itself, right? Catching one in the eye and being stuck in a frickin' freezer for the rest of his life instead of running around having fun. But anyway, I'm frozen. And I might try to cut some time away later on this evening and post another video tonight, because I had a few replies from some First Nations friends across North America in replies to the other email I shared the other night. And I think they'll be worthy of a read and a share, all right? But anyways, I'm frickin' frozen. I gotta go find some more stuff for the room in there. Sport my Club of No Return patch in public and see what comes. And I guess somebody might recognize me instead of the patch though, right? Who knows? Whatever. I'll be back shortly. Share my story at howtohunt.com. All right? Get it off your chest and share it. If not here, somewhere else, but just do it. I'll be back.